Okay, so for the last week, there has been an Ask Me Anything on the Lenovo Legion forums hosted by Sergey Balashov. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Anyways, he had a lot of questions to cover. I think that he was overwhelmed by the amount of people that have been asking such detailed and technical questions, but ultimately he gave us a lot of awesome answers. So thank you, Sergey, for spending your time with us and answering all of our nitpicky questions. So I thought I would go over the questions that were answered in a categorical format. So I want to first say that I was wrong about one thing in my last video about the Legion Go, and we'll go over that here shortly. So first thing we're going to tackle is the display. Absolutely 100% without a doubt, there is no VRR on this. Sergey said that Lenovo was not the source of the leak and that any of this information was wrong. It ended up being that community members found that the Lenovo official page for the Legion Go in Israel showed that there was VRR included. However, if you looked on the US and Africa and Portugal and all these other places that the Legion Go is going to be available there, they did not have this. So ultimately it was a mistake and it's been corrected, and Sergey did give a large explanation as to why VRR is not necessary, and I'm going to link his various different answers from the forums in the description so you can review those there about why he thinks that that's not necessary. And ultimately he left the statement with VRR not being a tech opportunity, which I'm guessing that means that it just wasn't within budget and didn't seem to be a big deal to them. Next, we're going to look at the display refresh rate. So it comes out of the box with 60 Hz, 120 Hz, and 144 Hz. Now, some asked if there would be lower refresh rates available. Sergey seemed to not understand the reasoning unless it was related to battery life. And this cut into the same VRR conversation about how high refresh rates are the answer for it. It's a very lengthy post, so again, it's going to be in the description. Next, about the display is that I was wrong. It is not a native portrait display. However, the models that were demoed at IFA and reviewed by other people, they were earlier samples that most likely used the Lenovo Y700 tablet display, which is a native portrait display. However, Sergey confirmed twice that the finalized product will have a different display that is natively landscape. So this is very good news for compatibility for different video games in Windows, because there are older games and even some newer games that can be affected and trying to display the resolution. So that is fantastic news. If you haven't seen my video that I previously posted, check that out, because I also go over some other items, some speculation, but still good information. Next, about the display is power consumption. Sergey gave a rough estimate comparing like a 500 nit 165 Hz Quad HD Plus panel on a 16-inch laptop consuming about 5 to 6 watts. And he said just downscale that to 8.8 inches. I'm not really sure how to do that math, except that 8.8 is 55% of 16. So I guess I'm looking at maybe 2.5 to 3 watts on average for the display power consumption. However, later on in the AMA, he talks about battery life and mentions that there's a 2-watt mode for the display as a form of battery savings. He gave a disclaimer that you can't really share any specific numbers though, since the BIOS and firmware are not final at this time, and so those numbers may improve. The next about the display would be the brightness and HDR. This display is 500 nits and HDR 400 should be possible, but it's not formally certified. He's gonna check, I guess, with his engineering team and get back with the community on that one. As far as the durability of the screen, it's not Gorilla Glass, unlike the ROG Ally. Sergey said it is durable, but he didn't have any more specifics about hardness specifications. Another question that came up was why not OLED? And of course, the same reason almost all other devices are not OLED right now is cost and power consumption. So that was about it for the display, and then moving on into the controllers. How they function is they use a proprietary Bluetooth connection, likely with an embedded microcontroller. It's probably not reliant on the operating system to function. Moving on, I asked a question about the D-pad. It was very clicky in Dave 2D's video. and he highlighted that. It seemed really annoying, and you know, normally I play my video games at night in bed. The D-pad would just be a no-go, and so he did say that that is an early model that is subject to change, so he sounded like that will be fixed in the final version. Next would be rumble or vibration. The controllers have HD haptics, and he said the feeling is subjective, but it is on the stronger side of the haptics vibration, I guess. Moving on to durability of the controllers, Sergey was pretty confident that the durability of the rails and controllers were tested extensively and that they had tried multiple different systems. Then it was asked whether or not the rail system is going to be proprietary or if they're going to allow third parties to possibly make controllers that could fit on that rail system, and he said that they are currently discussing it. So that's good news, but we'll see what transpires from that. Next on the controllers, there's a question about whether or not the gyro is in the controllers or in the main unit, and it is actually in the main unit currently, but he made it sound like it is subject to change at this point as well. It could possibly be in the controllers in the final production version. Next, it was a good question about why in the world are the back buttons so different? Why are they located in different spots? And this is simply because of their FPS mode with that vertical mouse. The buttons are in a different position so that when you're holding it, you don't accidentally press those buttons while you're using FPS mode. Makes sense. And next, we're going to talk just briefly about the sound. There wasn't really much going on here. It doesn't sound like there's any Dolby license or certifications or anything like that going on, but they are 2 watts each at maximum volume, and Sergey did say that they didn't really focus on audio as a primary goal. So the sound quality may be worse than the Ally or Steam Deck, but there really hasn't been too much comments on it. So we'll have to see how that sounds. Next, we're going to move on to TDP and battery. So with the TDP, there's going to be 3 different profiles while you're on battery. It goes from 7 watt to 15 watt and then to 20 watt. And I was wrong about this as well, is that for the docked mode, we had seen in previous demos at IFA that there was a power profile up to 48 watts. However, Sergey confirmed that actually the plugged in experience would be at 30 watt, and then they're currently testing a 35 watt mode, but they have some concerns about thermals and noise levels at that point, so they're trying to see if it makes sense to include a 35 watt mode. As far as battery estimates go, with the 49 watt hour battery, he did end up giving some rough estimates, but due to hardware and software not really being in a finished state, with everything at max 20 watt TDP, you're probably looking at a little over an hour and a half, which is honestly about what I get on my Steam Deck at 15 watts, so it sounds like enough for my gaming sessions at least. Then a little bit of conversation about the stock charger. It comes with a 65 watt charger, but he did state that you can use lower wattage chargers, like maybe the Steam Deck's official charger, which is 45 watt. With the stock charger, it has fast charging capabilities, so if it's completely dead, it will charge from 0% to 70% within about 30 minutes. Then it also has a pass-through charging function, so when it's connected and powered on, your battery won't be charging. This will prevent degradation to your battery. It's very nice to have. Also, if you connect a power bank or a battery pack to the Go, it won't charge the battery either past 95%. It was also asked that if you can set limits to charge percentages, like if you wanted to just charge the unit up to 80% when it's powered on and then stop charging it, but it doesn't sound like that's included yet, but it might be in the future because apparently that's a standard for their Legion laptop line. And then there's a question about the USB ports, whether or not they are Thunderbolt 3 compliant, support eGPUs, and he did say that they didn't really test eGPUs, but if you look at the sample card from IFA, it shows that it is USB 4 and Thunderbolt 3 compliant up to 40 gigabits per second, so that should mean that eGPUs should work. Both of these USB-C ports support Power Delivery 3.0, so you can charge from either one. Next, we're going to talk about the the accessories. The hard case is included with every Legion Go, so that's great. You know, Steam Deck comes with a case. The ROG Ally doesn't come with a case, so at the same price point as the ROG Ally, it's really nice that they come with a case, and it's hard on the outside, soft on the inside. So looking forward to seeing exactly what that looks and feels like. Then next, there wasn't really much talk about the Legion glasses. They include a case, but that was about the only thing that we talked about because it's a separate department that created those. Next, I did mention that there is going to be a official screen protector from Lenovo for the Legion Go. He's unsure if there's going to be an AR coating on the display itself, but the screen protector has a high transparency of 92%, really low thickness of 0.33 millimeters, and rated as H9 hardness, as well as it has a cutout for the ambient sensor light for adaptive brightness. Another question was whether or not the Legion Go is going to be ePen compatible. He said he's not sure, but looking into it, but chances are it should be, because the display is going to be modeled after the Y700, so it's very possible, but there still wasn't an affirmative answer on that just yet. He also mentioned that they are actually working on an official docking station for the Legion Go, so excited to see when that comes out. There was also talks about a controller combiner similar to the Switch, where you have both Joy-Cons and you can just line them up for when you're on the couch gaming or something like that. It's something that they're considering. He said that he was going to look into it and get back to us on that as well. Another question that came up often was if there's going to be a official keyboard case, you know, a keyboard with a trackpad for those that might want to replace like something like a Surface Go. It doesn't sound like they have any current official plans to make an accessory like that. Of course, you can use any type of keyboard or trackpad combo that will connect USB-C or Bluetooth, but you might be a little hard to find one that's going to fit this exact 8.8 inch display with this about 3/4 inch thick body. So we'll see if maybe the community can find something to source up, because that would be a fantastic option. The next was going over the software. So they are only officially supporting Windows 11 at this time. There's no other operating systems that they plan to support, so Windows 11 is the OS of choice here. For their launching application, it's called Legion Space, and it's still very much in an experimental phase, it seems. All the third-party launchers like GOG, Galaxy, Epic Games, Amazon Storefront, all those third-party game launchers, you should be able to import your games into Legion Space and run it through there. With ROG Ally, they have a similar experience with their Armory Crate software. There was also a question about whether or not we'll be able to have color management inside of Legion Space to change the display colors and whatnot. They don't have any plans for that, and you can just use other third-party Windows apps if you want to go crazy with that. Custom themes are not a priority at this time, may be released in the future. Another thing that came up, which would be very useful, is an FPS limiter. You know, they do have the feature to enable and disable RSR, but they don't have an option in Legion Space at this time for FPS limits. It's possibly something they're going to look into. Sergey is supposed to get back with the community on that as well. And lastly, about software, he did also mention that you'll be able to log into Lenovo's website, register your device, and be able to download for recovery in case you decide that you're going to upgrade your hard drive, or you need to reformat, or some other technical issue, or you need to reinstall Windows. So you'll be able to do that and get back to factory settings. And then there was some discussion about the memory. So the built-in NVMe is the size 2242, and this size was chosen for over a 2230 like the Steam Deck and ROG Ally, or a full-size 2280. And the reason why it wasn't chosen as a 2280 is power consumption and size. He also said that they expect 2242's form factor to be booming as a mainstream form factor within this next year. So we'll see about that. There was questions questions asked about replacing the solid state drive and whether or not it's covered under the warranty or would void the warranty. And it sounds like that Lenovo's not placing any sort of warranty voidance if you do this, but countries may have certain laws that may void your warranty when you open up a device. So it doesn't sound like Lenovo's going to limit that. There was also some discussion about why the Legion Go is 16 gigabytes of RAM instead of 32, and basically just came down to him saying that it's not needed and that increasing the capacity could have affected the stability of the RAM at its current speed at the 7500 megahertz, and they may have needed a thicker or heavier motherboard. So ultimately it was decided that 16 gig was the way to go. Lastly, we're going to look at availability, pricing, and the warranty. So the on-shelf date is scheduled for October 31st, 2023, but it sounds like that could change. That's just what they have it slated for at this time. It should be available in USA, South Africa, Spain, and many other EU or EMEA countries. The pricing for US starts at $699 for the 512 gig, and pricing is 799 euros for EU countries, and similar pricing in other EMEA countries. There's no embargo on the date for pre-ordering, so it's up to the individual partner when they want to allow it. There was a vague answer about warranty. It didn't really say whether or not it's 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year, but ultimately just kind of leaned on that EU has a 2-year warranty and that some countries allow up to 3 years. I mean, typically in the US, I think it's just 1 year. So we kind of just leaned on the countries for the warranty lengths and said that, you know, you can get accidental protection and things like that to possibly extend up to 3 years is their maximum that they will offer. And then on the end of Friday, he got back and said that there are some items that he still wants to answer. He's still waiting on answers for, that he's going to get back to the community on. So that's awesome that he's following through with that and making sure all of our questions are answered. However, he did mention that the 1 terabyte model might not be available in 2023 on the shelf. And so I don't know if that means that it's not going to be available for all countries or just particular countries. It was during the discussion about how much it is in Europe and other EMEA countries. So I don't know if it was limited to that area or if it's worldwide that the 1 terabyte model won't be available by the end of 2023. Ultimately, I think that the AMA went awesome. It was so nice to have a full week where we could think about the different questions that were opening up instead of just a quick interview. So thank you, Sergey, and thank you, Team Lenovo, for dealing with us and all of our little nitpicky questions, especially having to reconfirm that there's no VRR like 4 times. So some of that was my fault, but ultimately wanted to put that to rest. And now that it is, we can focus on what makes the Legion Go so great. So I'm just really impressed with how everything was handled, and I look forward to seeing what more information comes out from Lenovo, as well as when the embargo lifts for reviewers so that they can reveal the final products. But I think we're probably about a good month out for that. So until then, feel free to add your comments to the video and subscribe or join my Discord. We can talk more about the device, what you're excited about, what you're not excited about. Let me know, and I will see you guys next time.